Hello, everyone. This is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments, and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter, and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life, and primarily, they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories, and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories, so sign up and be our next guest. Hi, and welcome to Tucson, Arizona. Louis, welcome. I'm going to introduce you as the father of 3 beautiful children. We don't know their ages, and we don't need to because he's still very young. And more importantly, he has a wonderful wife who he cares for dearly. But that's enough about that. Louis, over to you. I want to hear this amazing story. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. And we chatted before a little bit about this podcast is about telling stories and then providing some sort of nugget of value to folks. And so I want to tell a little story. I used to be an Army officer, and now I'm a business consultant. And some of the lessons I learned in the military and in combat have actually served throughout my career. So just quick story here. I was leading a team of soldiers. We were along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. I had 9 guys with me, and kind of a long story of a series of events that had happened. But we're on this mountaintop. It's about 10,000 feet in elevation. And we were coming from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is far lower in elevation. I don't know what it is, but just to give you, the oxygen was thin. And we spotted some enemy moving and ended up getting into this major firefight with these guys. I thought it was just 3 guys because that's all we had seen. And behind the way the terrain was, it was very mountainous. And behind the first 3 guys that we had seen, there was about another 22 guys there. And I only had 9. And so we quickly got surrounded. We were outnumbered. We ended up running out of ammunition. I had a casualty. We basically had to do what's called a break contact battle drill. So bound backwards in teams, and you sort of fight your way out of the fight. It's a coordinated retreat, actually a really ancient battle tactic. And if you read about the American Revolution, that was one of the first things that they did. Anyway, we're going to skip that. I'm a little bit of a history nerd, but the point I'm getting at is I had to retreat basically from this fight. And so luckily nobody died that day, but we did have a few casualties. And like I said, everybody was out of ammo and out of water. And we were at such high elevation that we were walking when we should have been running, but just could not breathe. And so we got back to the base and sat down with the team and said, okay, let's examine absolutely everything that went wrong with this. And so what's important to note is that when we first went out there, we went out based on the U.S. Army's standard operating procedure and recommendations of what you should be carrying, how much ammo you have, how much water, food, radios, all of these things, just based on Army, what I would call the bureaucratic ideas of how to fight. And when we sat down with a team and kind of went through this, we realized we were carrying a bunch of stuff we didn't need, and we weren't carrying a bunch of stuff we did need. And so, how do we reprioritize to what we actually need, right? And so, we ended up ditching all kinds of stuff. We were going out for 3 and 4 day missions basically with one meal, one MRE, because every ounce that I carry is an ounce of ammunition that I can't carry. And so I was like, well, I can be hungry for 4 days, but I can't survive in a firefight more than 4 minutes if I don't have any ammunition, right? So carrying a bunch of ammunition, carrying a lot of water, no food, almost no food, extra pair of socks, a brown t-shirt, and then that was what we rolled out with for days and days and days. And then in our trucks we had more ammunition, and we looked at the grenadiers and have more grenades, and machine gunners have more ammunition. So just kind of understanding of what is our real need, right? Earlier I said this story kind of relates to how we approaching problems. To I ignore the bureaucracy, I ignore kind of, this is the way we do things. That doesn't matter to me. I don't pay attention to anything of how we've always done it, or this is how we do things, or this is what the standard says. I don't care about that. What I care about is the real effect, what's going to happen in reality, and what do I really need to do. And some examples from my life at a Fortune 100, a quality engineer who tells me that a part is out of spec. You say, okay, how is it going to affect the functionality of the machine? You want me to shut down an entire assembly line? You need to explain that to me. And for him, it was, well, it's out of spec. For me, it was, it's going to cost me a lot more money to shut down an assembly line. So you better tell me how it's going to have that, ignoring that bureaucracy and solving the problem. And I led multiple projects I was working at John Deere. I led multiple projects for John Deere. My projects always exceeded far and beyond what the returns on the investments that were expected. And part of the reason was, whenever you start a project, everybody comes in and says, "Oh, I want to add this, and I want to add this, and I want to add this." And I'll stop. What is the purpose of the project? What do we really need? What are we trying to accomplish here? This is a cost reduction thing. Great that you have this new technology. We're not doing that. We're only focusing on the cost reduction because that's the piece that we need to worry about. And then on the other hand, when it's a new technology piece, then it's, look, the cost reduction is fun, but we're not doing that. We're focusing on bringing out this new technology to win in the marketplace, whatever it is. But defining our needs, looking at our root causes, and really understanding what is the problem and how we solve it without adding all these other layers of complication in our decision making. And that's how we like
Absolutely.
move forward.
Absolutely. So I'm going to take you back to the combat because that is a fascinating story because unlike you, I never got army trained. I never had to run around and jump over stuff and do drills and things like that. Only because I did it for fun, but don't tell anyone. So I kind of look at that and I think, I was never in a hostile situation where it was going to be a problem for me. It was life or death. What was going through your mind at that point in time when you're retreating and you have no ammo? Where was your mind at that point?
What I do is a series. Well, there's a few things, right? And I think that's where I'm getting ahead in my head, and which is making me struggle here with this answer.
I'm sorry.
No, no, no. It's all right. Fear there was no time for fear. That's like the first thing.
Okay. Okay.
It
No
wasn't.
time for fear.
No, the fear came later. Actually, which is weird because like afterwards, when we're safe and I'm sitting in the cot getting ready to sleep, then I start getting scared. Then it's like, oh my god, I can't believe we've made it through that. In the moment, it was a series of problems. It was, okay, we've got three enemy here. We're going to set up in this position, and I'm going to call in this thing, and this is how I'm going to do it. And then as the situation continued to progress poorly, it was, okay, how do I solve this problem? And how do I solve this problem and this new issue? And then it's, we should get down because somebody's shooting at you, not just in your direction, but at you, right? So like, you know,
Wow.
um,
Wow. Wow.
but
Wow.
yeah, it was just, but that's also a technique in decision making and something that the military teaches you, particularly in Ranger School. They throw a bunch of stuff at you on purpose to make you understand what it feels like to be completely overwhelmed and try and make decisions. And what
Mm,
you absolutely have to do is compartmentalize things and say, okay, what is my top priority right now? What is
yeah.
the one thing that I have to take care of?
So
Sometimes
I'm
it's shooting
going
back.
to shooting back with ammo. I'm going to take you forward now to the business issues that we're faced with. And you're absolutely right. Putting them into compartments where you can kind of look at it. It's like opening a box and going, right, you and you and you are really important, but you're not for this moment in time. It's not going to matter in this business decision. So being able to do that in your mind is very, very powerful. And you're absolutely right. So as a business coach now, looking back on all your experiences, what nugget can you leave us with that will just make the whole big difference in our lives for the next 24 hours? A big difference in our lives going forward.
Solve one problem at a time and understand that as a leader, your decision making is a muscle. And the more decisions you have to make, the more tired that muscle gets. If every decision tree in your business has you in it, you're the problem with the business. And so,
Wow.
delegate some of those tasks. You can never sell that business because you are the business. So you have to delegate tasks and you have to delegate the authority. You do not delegate the responsibility. So you delegate authority and someone makes a mistake, that's on you. Just a little side nugget on that one. Uh,
So you're ultimately always responsible, but yeah. But you're right. I think that is amazing. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you taking out the time today to be with us and tell us about that. I'm still fascinated and overwhelmed by how you got out without any ammunition. We're talking about Afghanistan here. We're talking about the worst war ever that we've seen in this last decade. Hats off to you, and I appreciate your service. Thank you so much, Louis.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. This is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments, and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter, and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life, and primarily, they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories, and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories, so sign up and be our next guest.